Now that the federal government has the authority to sneak, snatch, and lock up its own citizens, a new bill has been introduced by Congress that gives the feds a place to hold those outspoken dissenters and potential domestic terrorists.
H.R. 645, titled the National Emergency Centers Act, directs the Secretary of Homeland Security to establish national emergency centers throughout the United States.
The government doesn't build things that are not needed or that there aren't contingency plans that say there's a reason for them.
Also, it's been reported by WorldNet Daily that the Department of Homeland Security has already awarded nearly a $400 million contract to Halliburton to build some temporary detention centers on an as-needed basis.
Conceivably, these are the kinds of camps that could be used for political dissidents, just like occurred in Nazi Germany.
I got a feeling in the next few years that you may start to see some American citizens end up in these camps for questioning the government.
The president can declare a national emergency, and it can be anything. It can be a hurricane, or it can be political protests or civil disorders like we saw in the race riots. I think the government's anticipating that there's going to be a increased reaction against the economic downturn, and this could lead to the kinds of street riots and protests we've seen in countries such as France.
So, William, why is it that thousands of Boy Scouts in this country are being trained by the Department of Homeland Security?
Well, the Department of Homeland Security makes it seem very innocuous. You know, they say that they're training to help with the illegal immigration problem, and they're being trained to, you know, from some of the photographs that I've seen, with you know, guns, and obviously these some of these guns look real, some of these are plastic, and they're obviously fake, but you know, they're conditioning the Boy Scouts to round up whomever they may send them after. You know, we got an email immediately after the release of this documentary from someone who was in the Boy Scouts telling us that the Boy Scouts have nothing to do with the Department of Homeland Security, and you're lying, you need to retract this information, and we're going to turn you in. We're giving this information to the Boy Scouts of America so that they can do something about it. Right. So this is pointing out exactly what I'm talking about. First of all, the ignorance of the Boy Scout who sent us this email, and secondly, his first reaction is turn them in.
Yeah. Wow, that's really scary.
However, I've been to the image searches, and I found dozens and dozens of photographs of Boy Scouts training with Homeland Security. It's there for everybody to find.
Right.
With weapons.
Now,
we've got 4 different articles up on campfema.com under the resource section that you know, are directly from the Department of Homeland Security, DHS.gov, that explain why the Boy Scouts have partnered with the Department of Homeland Security.
Right.
I think I know why they're being trained. They are to accompany the census takers next year.
Yeah, help them get across the street. Now, we want to get right to the camps here, William. Tell us more. In the clip we just played, it's about this H.R. 645 titled the National Emergency Centers Act. Is that actually law already?
No, that is not. That is something that was introduced by Alcee Hastings of Florida, and it's a very dangerous piece of legislation. There's been no vote on it. We don't know exactly when they're going to vote on it again because they seem to be so concentrated right now on getting a health care package put together. But this will come up again most likely this year, so we need to be ready for it and focused on what they're going to call the next bill, because I'm sure they're going to approach this from the Senate next. But this bill, basically what it mandates that they build at least 6 different FEMA facilities, emergency-type facilities, around the country in 6 of the different FEMA disaster locations that they've designated. And the purpose of these camps, if you want to call them that, they'll have medical facilities, they'll have Department of Transportation, they will have schools in these things, department stores. It will be just like, or very similar to, the internment camps that we saw in the 1940s that they put Japanese into. Americans in.
So now these, if you were to go into one of these camps, God forbid, but if they have plans for this, then all of the person who gets thrown in there, their assets What happens to them? Are they just seized? Is that what happened with the Japanese? Did they lose everything? Did they have anything to come back to?
No.
They literally lost their businesses, their houses. If you had a car, you had to drive to the facility. You were only allowed to carry what you could hold in both of your arms. And your automobile was left out in the parking lot, and if you were lucky, someone in the Army would come by and offer you pennies on the dollar and buy it from you. But most people just lost everything, literally. And, you know, when you got into the camp, you still had personal hygiene. You had to buy toothpaste. You had to buy the necessities that you need for daily life. And the only way that they had to earn this money is to be subjected to forced labor. So the government provided them jobs that they had no choice whether to take, and then they provided them, I think, $9 a month if you were, performing some type of manual labor, and you had to, exist on $9 a month.
So, William, are you saying that they're going to be rounding up illegal aliens or just regular U.S. citizens?
Well, they say that they want to have it in place for illegal immigration problems, but if you look at the ArmyTimes.com and you look at the Army.mil and some of their articles, I tend to go with they're going to use it in a situation where they've got civil unrest. And this is why they brought in the brigade from Afghanistan and Iraq and stationed them here in the United States. Very plainly, they state that this is going to be for some type of a national emergency situation or in the event of civil unrest.
All right, William, hang on there. In the clip, it said that the president can declare a national emergency, and that's when they would be used. When we come back, we'll find out how things got so bad.
This is more of an action of a country that has gone absolutely berserk, that they feel that they would have to jail their own citizens, that the government would fear its own people so much that they would be talking about detaining people or incarcerating them or vetting them or investigating them or whatever. This whole thing has been turned on its head. So anytime that you can demonstrate the power of government and you want to condition people into a way of thinking or to intimidate them or make them fearful, do actions that are going to put the fear of government and authority in people's hearts. Strike that chord and make them shut up. Just when people in this country should be doing exactly the opposite, because I don't even recognize this country anymore.
Attention, attention, attention. American forces are here to help. Remain calm. We will not tolerate civil disobedience.
Okay, we're on the phone with William Lewis. William, in the last clip there, which really creeps me out, you hear, we will not tolerate civil disobedience. How did things get this far, William, where people will just let this happen in their cities?
Well, it's a system that's been set up, it's acclimation, step by step, little by little. The clip that you're referring to actually took place 10 years ago in Operation Urban Warrior, and this is when they would go into neighborhoods and set up these big fences and cordon it off. They would literally practice arresting citizens, and the citizens, the people of the town, didn't know that this was just, a drill or an operation. They were going in and literally, I believe bombing the sheriff. I'm trying to remember where that took place in Texas, I believe, where they blew up the sheriff's station. There's been several different operations that the military has conducted over the years where they go in and take over a neighborhood and then start confiscating guns, going door to door, and sometimes they have civilians in there, and sometimes they have paid actors who will yell and scream, "I'm an American citizen, you can't do this to me, I have rights." They're conditioning these military personnel, these troops, so that when they get into a situation like this, that's the first thing I'm going to yell when they're taking my gun away from me is, "Hey, I'm an American, I've got rights." Well, they're conditioning them to ignore it.
So we may not have to worry about foreign troops doing this, as there has been the fear amongst many in the Patriot movement, I guess.
Your new film is called Camp FEMA, American Lockdown. My question, William, is who's going to be manning these internment camps? I mean, we're pretty short on soldiers and National Guard right now. Who's in there? Blackwater?
Well, you would think that we're pretty short-handed right now, but if you go check out monster.com and you do a search for internment resettlement specialist, you'll come across an ad from the National Guard. The National Guard is actually openly hiring for these positions. They have a video that they put up on their website. It was redacted or retracted just a little later because of all the heat that they were getting from it. We have it. We got a recording of it, put it in the video so you can actually see what they say. And, they're talking about this great, wonderful job where you're going to be going in and, explaining to the prisoners what their rights are and taking the prisoners on their daily walks and making, searching for contraband and all of these things that they advertise in this video. But the video is advertising for internment resettlement specialist. So I think we can see that people will probably be coming from the National Guard.
And
I'm thinking that Boy Scouts may apply.
Maybe Boy Scouts growing up. Yeah, but the scary thing is there will be people who will be willing to do this job, especially now. The economy's in such a mess with really a real unemployment rate of 16%. There's going to be a lot of people who think, I don't know what else to do. I'll take this job.
Well, the people that are going to be in those camps are going to be the people that were listed in the Department of Homeland Security report, in the MIAC report, in all of these, Project Megiddo and all of these things that we've seen over the years. Those are the people that will be in the camps, and it will be perfectly natural because these people who've been hired to do this will be trained to, ignore it because we're the bad guys. Those are the people, those are the militia members. Those are the people who, the bad people who want to own guns because they're evil, potential domestic terrorists.
I got a question here. William, how do you find out if your name is on the Camp FEMA guest list? I guess that's almost impossible. I mean, anybody could be on the Camp FEMA guest list if you've gone to a subversive website, and there's thousands of them out there.
Or if you've gone to a protest.
Or anything like that. I mean, we all could be on that list.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a system that they've got set up for you to be able to know whether you're on the list or not. Typically what happens is you go to the airport to, get on your flight and you find out that you're on the no-fly list, and then you go from there.
Right.
And, I know that from the footage that I've seen and the news reports I've seen, once you're on that Department of Homeland Security, potential terrorist list, now,
you're pretty well out of it.
It's impossible to get off, and they admit.
William, have to say goodnight here. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, thank you so much, William. Everybody, it's Camp FEMA. The website is campfema.com.